Hello and welcome to Dr. DC. My name is Colin. I'm here with the doctor himself.
Hello.
And this week we've got some fun Batman stuff going on in the studio.
Woo!
Nobody... Do people woo for Batman?
I just did.
They woo for cheap Jägermeister.
Do you know
shots.
what? We're 3 episodes in and we're finally talking about Batman, which in the context of DC is like, that's a marathon length of time we haven't been talking about Batman. So it was worth a woo.
More like a boo.
Here we go.
And away we go. So in news this week, Batman Returns, the 25th anniversary. Doc, what do you got to say about that one?
Yeah, so Batman Returns is my personal favorite Batman movie of all time. It's the weirdest kind of blend of things. There's some ridiculous, silly, campy things in there. Like the Penguin has an actual army of penguins that march out into the city to carry out his plan. And then on the other side, he's this horrifically grotesque monster that's abandoned by his parents in a river. I don't know how.
So many laughable moments.
Are we still talking about the Penguin or just Danny DeVito, period?
No, the Penguin, believe it or not. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. The movie shouldn't work when you think of the different things that are in there, but it holds it all together. Michelle Pfeiffer is a terrific Catwoman in there, second only to Eartha Kitt in my personal opinion. Yeah, and she's fantastic in that. Christopher Walken is the bad guy in it too, and he's terrifying.
Does he display his beautiful dance moves?
He doesn't. This is before he went back to dancing. This is before Fatboy Slim.
That's a damn shame.
Yeah, yeah. It's still worth the watch though.
Batman and Harley Quinn movie to premiere at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2017.
Yeah, so this is the newest animated Batman film. It's got Kevin Conroy back. He's been playing Batman for 25 years or something like that. For a whole generation of people, he kind of is Batman. He was the voice on the animated series, The New Adventures. He played Bruce Wayne in Batman Beyond. He was in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and then all sorts of these animated films like Justice League Doom, etc., etc. But opposite that, they've got a brand new Harley Quinn. It's not Arlene Sorkin or Tara Strong this time.
It's Aaron Sorkin.
Yes, Aaron Sorkin. This is the most fast-talking Harley Quinn in
It's a very political.
So
Harley Quinn.
Everyone's
So
walking
political.
around everywhere.
It's a lot of walking and talking. It's a lot of coffee chatter.
It's a lot of strong opinions about political figures.
Yeah, that's right. It's Batman meets the West Wing.
when they just call that the best wing.
That's
The Batwing.
there we go. That was the one. That was the one.
It's a stupid comic. I hate everything.
Oh God. Yeah. So what was I saying? Harley has a new voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Harley has a new voice. Who is she?
Yeah. So she is being voiced by the actress who plays Bernadette on Big Bang Theory. So if you watch CBS sitcoms and you can't get enough of that, then have a little listen for her. I think she's actually going to be pretty good. I've watched the trailer. The voice sounds kind of on point. Yeah.
It's a wonderful TV show.
Let's not get into this.
He's also a super fan of Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh,
Don't you put words in my mouth.
I love Dexter's Lab.
Who doesn't?
Fair enough.
I don't.
That television show on CBS is just basically the grown-up version of that, I think, isn't it? Really?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, we'll have to save this for a different podcast where you don't know things about.
Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, remastered and heading to Blu-ray. What are our thoughts on the Blu-ray?
Wow, we cued that sound effect at a weird time. Yeah, what are my thoughts on the Blu-ray? I mean, this is the first Batman animated series film that came out. It had a limited theatrical release, which is kind of unheard of for those types of movies. And it's a super heartbreaking film. It really it stands up. It's a really vulnerable Bruce Wayne. It's a great Batman story with an interesting original villain. And yeah, it's kind of exciting to get it on Blu-ray. I'm hoping that it comes with lots of sort of extra, behind the scenes stuff, because that era of Batman was so sort of fertile. There was so much going on between the show and the comics and things like that. So it's kind of nice to revisit that.
All right. Well, now we've covered everything in news, and we've queued up all the terrible sound effects. Yeah, that's how you end the news, I guess. We're going to get to questions, which is my personal favorite time of the show.
It's most of the show.
It's 96.2% of the show.
Yes, let's hear what these dummies have to say this week.
Well, on Reddit, Rigus Telrun says, what do you think about Batman's strict adherence to a no-kill rule compared to other heroes? I think it's because he knows he'd like it and never be able to stop once he got a taste for blood.
More like biggest dumb bum.
What? Oh, I see what you're doing. You're making a joke on the name there. Yeah. So Batman is very famous for his no-kill rule.
A foolish rule.
He talks about it all the time, that you don't kill no matter what. He's famously not killed the Joker because he believes in this rule so much. And there are comics and movies that deal with whether or not he's right or wrong about that, that maybe he would save more lives if he just took one or things like that. I mean, it's a big ethical question that the comics and the movies and everything asks.
What's the issue? Did someone kill someone close to him or something?
Yes.
Two somethings, I think.
Yes.
I don't know much about these things, but I feel like he's not a fan of the number 2 or alleys.
No, I mean, like, this is a fair point, though, because part of the reason that Batman is so anti-killing is that a random killing took his parents from him. But I think more than anything, he describes it as basically what Rigus Telrun here has said, that he's afraid that if he does it once, he'll find a way to do it again. It's that thing where if you can justify something once, then it's playing the sort of like logical game to get yourself there again is way, way easier, which is a philosophical argument here. Personally, I think I'll tell you two things. There's a real world reason that is not my personal opinion why Batman doesn't kill. And then I'll give you my personal opinion about in the story why I think he doesn't kill. So the real world reason, not to take the wind out of like the fantastic, world of DC Comics, but if Batman killed his villains, it would be very hard to keep writing comics because you'd have to constantly forever write new villains. I mean, that sounds very ridiculous, but it's 100% true. Batman, in his most original adventures in like 1939, he kills someone in his first comic. He like kicks him into like a vat of acid. And Batman carried a gun for like a year in comics in the beginning. It changed because there was sort of public pressure for comics to be a little less gruesome, a little more palatable for kids. And 2, it's hard to have recurring villains if the solution is to kill them.
Instead, you just knock them onto a sword.
You could do that. You know what? And they found ways to do that and bring villains back. Like later on with a character like Ra's al Ghul, he has the Lazarus Pit, which can heal him and bring him back. So then they can kind of like kill him off and bring him back. But for the most part, yeah, the reason Batman doesn't kill is to keep his villains around. Now, in the narrative, they have to come up for a reason for that. They can't just say, like in an editor's note, like, if you want the Joker to show up again, we can't kill him. So the reason in narrative is that Batman has this no-kill rule. I think that a little bit of a part of that is that Batman's a bit of a fascist. So when you compare him to a very similar character like Green Arrow, they're both rich, they both have no powers, they both basically fight bad guys with training and tech. Green Arrow is like very famously like a man of the people. He's known as the hard traveling hero. He like fights very street level crime. He like helps people who are drug addicts and like tries to, better people's lives. And Batman is very much like a rich white guy who beats up people with mental illnesses, which I don't think I could describe anything more fascistic than that. He's basically a fascist. So I think as a writer, if you're writing Batman, the thing Someone else has a very strong opinion about me thinking that Batman is a fascist.
Maybe it's the KG Beast.
Yeah, it could be. Oh, God. Close the windows. Yeah, I think part of it as a writer is that if you want to try and tone down like how kind of brutal Batman is, you kind of can't have him even think about killing. Because otherwise, like, you're basically describing like the most dangerous totalitarian there could ever be. Rigus, I hope that was the answer you were looking for.
On the other side of this, Rigus did kind of muddle up his question via the internet, whereby the original question, in his words, were, what do you think Batman's strict adherence to a more kill rule?
Is this a bizarro question?
Because here's
do you know what? Just for fun, we can do this bizarro question. Batman's strict adherence to a more kill rule. I'll give you an example of a Batman that does kill more. So at one point, Barry Allen, the Flash, goes back in time, saves his mom, and he shatters reality and creates this whole new world where like events transpire differently. It's called Flashpoint. And in that world, Bruce Wayne is shot and killed in the alley as a kid. The trauma of it makes his mother, Martha, snap and become the Joker, and his father, Thomas Wayne, becomes Batman. And this Batman has no problem killing. He shoots people, drops them off buildings, stabs people with swords. This Batman finishes the job. He is a brutal, angry, like consumed with rage kind of Batman. If you can imagine a Batman more consumed with rage than Bruce Wayne, it's Thomas Wayne. And that Batman does kill more.
It's a best Batman.
But
what's his relationship like with the Joker?
It's complicated. It's really like, it's kind of, I mean, it's very heartbreaking. You'll have to read Flashpoint or like one of its sort of tie-in issues to really see it, but it is pretty heartbreaking. But it takes like this like world-ending event and the Flash to show up out of nowhere to give Thomas any sort of like ray of hope. Like in that comic, the world is ending and Thomas is ready to end with it. That's what that killing and that rage has done to him in that particular example. And so I don't think it's unfair to imagine that a Bruce Wayne Batman that crosses that line could also find himself in the same sort of situation, that kind of self-loathing. And, you know, he's doing it out of some sort of like obligation as opposed to actually trying to better people's lives or fight crime.
It kind of seems, though, just to kind of look at both those cases, the fact that that Bruce Wayne is a small child, whereas his father is, you know, a middle-aged man, so on and so forth, that the event itself of a death of someone close to them, they have wildly different reactions to it.
Totally. And in the case of Thomas Wayne, he not only loses his 8-year-old son, he also loses his wife.
Yeah, so he goes like right off.
Yeah. I mean, it totally breaks him. And his Batcave isn't filled with toys and like a big dinosaur statue. It's not like fun like Batman's Batcave.
No, it's like Game of Thrones. There's like heads on stakes.
No, it's
probably.
not. It's not even that. It's like a desk in a cave with a handgun on it, and like a couple of like pictures of people he's after like pinned to it. It is the bleakest possible version of Batman, and it's directly related to the fact that he kills so freely.
He's like that guy from Office Space, but instead of a stapler, it's a handgun.
I mean, he's a serial killer, basically,
for sure.
And his thing is killing criminals. But I mean, he's really just a serial killer if you're looking at it strictly that way.
Wow.
Yeah. We've answered the intended and the bizarro version of Rigus's question. So I hope that's enough.
That was really dark.
Do we want to try and like lighten it up a little?
Yeah, sure. How about this one from Colin Local Co? If Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake were all the sidekicks of different heroes, i.e. not Batman, who would they have flourished most under or been best paired with?
This is an amazing question, and I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure where to start with it. I'll start maybe with just a quick clarification for anyone else who's listening that doesn't follow the comics. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake are all Robins. Dick Grayson is the first Robin. Jason Todd is the second Robin, who was very famously killed by the Joker in comics. And then Tim Drake is the Robin that followed. He went by Red Robin for the most part.
I really liked him in those Uncharted games.
That's Nathan Drake. That's very close. Very, very close. Yeah, so they're all Robins, former Robins of the Batman. They've all gone on to become different things. Tim Drake is the Red Robin, who's his own hero. Jason Todd came back to life and became the Red Hood. And Dick Grayson is Nightwing. He's a very famous member of the Bat family. So, yeah, so now, if they weren't the sidekicks of Batman, who would they have flourished most under or been best paired with? Let's start with Dick Grayson. He's the original Robin. He's the first sidekick. Dick's relationship to Batman is interesting because he was Batman for a little bit. When Bruce Wayne was, quote unquote, killed, Dick Grayson became the Batman. And it was interesting because he's a bit more lighthearted. I mean, his family was killed too, but because Bruce Wayne took him in and raised him, he had a family. Like, he doesn't have the hate in his heart that Bruce Wayne does. So he's a very kind of quippy Batman. He's very acrobatic. He's physically light in addition to being sort of like emotionally light. And when he was Batman, his Robin was Damian Wayne, which is Bruce Wayne's son, who was trained as an assassin. So you had like a really serious Robin and a really fun Batman. So it's kind of like the reverse of what it had been for a long time. So keeping that in mind, someone for Dick Grayson to flourish under, I would actually say someone like, this might be a little controversial. I'm going to say someone like Green Arrow. Now Green Arrow, I'll preface this by saying he's famously a terrible mentor. Like his ward, Roy Harper, who was his sidekick Speedy, became addicted to heroin. Because Green Arrow is kind of neglectful and that sort of thing. So I know it sounds like a weird choice, but where I'm coming from is that Green Arrow is sort of the rich playboy billionaire like Bruce Wayne, but he means it. That's an act for Bruce Wayne when he like takes a ballerina out to dinner. Green Arrow like takes a ballerina out to dinner. Like, and there's something about the fact that he kind of enjoys his life, and even though it's like a hard fight and he's the Green Arrow and he trains and he deals with some dark things, he still finds like the joy and the fun, if you can say that, in it. And that, I think, would be an interesting pairing with someone like Dick Grayson. To kind of bring that out maybe even more in him.
I also really liked him on Third Rock from the Sun.
You mean Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yes, Dick Grayson.
Technically not Dick Grayson in that movie, but very strongly hinted at to be quote-unquote Robin. Yes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's right.
Wait, did I just accidentally nail that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes.
Gold star for you. You fucking idiot.
We'll fix that in post.
No, we won't. We missed a big one last week. I don't think that one's going to fly away too.
What did you mean?
Okay. Nope. So the second Robin, Jason Todd, was troubled to begin with. He was like, I don't want to say he was a bad kid because he wasn't. He was like good in his heart, but he was troubled. And we're underscoring that with the sound of a beer being poured. But then he was killed by the Joker, like brutally beaten and killed by the Joker. And then years later came back to life and was like a bad guy. He like snapped, and it took a long time for like him to kind of rehabilitate, and he still kills. He's like one of the few members of the Batman family that kills, and Batman kind of doesn't shut it down. So Jason, I actually think would flourish under someone like Deathstroke, the Terminator. So Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, is the world's deadliest assassin. He has enhanced reflexes. He's a master tactician, rivaling Batman, and he's kind of amoral. He's sometimes on the side of the angels and sometimes on the side of the devils. Really just depends who's paying him and how much. He's like a very sort of like amoral kind of.
He's a mercenary.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah, absolutely. So, but he's a master at firearms, hand-to-hand combat, and he's sort of emotionally detached enough that maybe there's something in there that like Jason Todd would flourish under. That sounds horrible, but coming out of like that sort of trauma and those sort of things, I think Deathstroke has found a way to live with how he kills. It's not about what he thinks is good or bad. It's just who's paying.
I don't know. I feel like after hearing all that, Jason Todd would do really well under somebody like Elmer Fudd.
Except Elmer Fudd has like historically spent like decades not killing the one thing he's trying to kill.
He's not a very good shot.
No, he's not.
He's a total fool.
No, he's not. That's why he doesn't get hired as much as Deathstroke.
He's easily tricked.
Yeah, and then so the last part of this question, Tim Drake, he as Robin is kind of known as like the successor to Batman's detective skills. He's a very brilliant tactician and a very smart detective. Ra's al Ghul refers to him as detective, which is the name he also gives Batman. He's the only other person to be called detective by Ra's al Ghul, which is kind of high praise. So I'm going to throw a weird one out there for a different mentor for Tim Drake. I'm going to say Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, I think he might have come up in the first episode, but he's
John Jones.
John Johns, that's right. Absolutely. He's the last Martian. He's big, green-skinned. He's a founding member of the Justice League, and he is the last of his race. He has basically all of the powers of Superman, plus telepathy, shape-shifting. He can phase through walls. He can go invisible. Et cetera, et cetera. He's the most powerful hero on the planet.
And no longer has a problem with lead, I think.
No, he doesn't have a problem with lead.
Bingo.
His weakness is fire, but let's leave that for now.
Everyone has a problem with fire, though.
This guy has a real problem with fire. Like psychologically, he has a problem with fire. And physically, but also psychologically.
He's a pyro?
No, like the opposite way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like fire shuts him down.
Oh, he's a tattletale.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a Martian Manhunter episode at some point. But yeah, for the sake of argument, he does not handle fire very well. But he also, in addition to being kind of crazy powerful like Superman, he's his alter ego, Detective John Jones.
John Jones.
Which, yeah, you might notice is like a very clever little transliteration of his Martian name, John Johns. Yeah, so he's a detective in the Gotham City Police Department, and he's quite accomplished at that. And Batman himself has described Martian Manhunter as being Batman-esque. So in a way, he's like Superman and Batman put together. I think based on that sort of rubric, it would be interesting to see Tim Drake with Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter is maybe a little emotionally distant. As a Martian with telepathy, as you might expect, he's kind of got to shut out the noise, and he's the last of his race. He's kind of alone, but he's also someone who very selflessly has decided to help people on Earth. Like he's made it his adopted home. So there's a lot of inherent good in him, and that sort of detective brain, I think they would have a lot in common, and there'd be something really interesting in
Not
there.
that Ra's al Ghul would ever call him that.
No, Ra's al Ghul has never called Martian Manhunter detective. Although I
But he keeps referring to him as a dick.
Yeah, just off panel. Yeah. For a different episode, we could discuss a Superman and Batman put together, but he's referred to as the Composite Superman.
That is a terrible name.
It's not a great name.
It's very wordy.
I actually can't argue with you.
It's really, really, really wordy.
Here comes Composite Man.
Composite Superman. It's even clunkier than Composite Man.
Oh, man, it's breathy.
Yeah.
It's very breathy.
But at any rate, I think that's my answer. I would be interested in seeing a Dick Grayson like mentored by Green Arrow, Jason Todd mentored by Deathstroke, and a Tim Drake mentored by Martian Manhunter.
I bet you'd be interested in a dick.
He can't help himself.
I was saying you're gay.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you very much to our friends over at Reddit for some really great questions.
Yes, with all of the time you have available to you.
Now we're going to move on to our pals over at Facebook.
Ah, yes, Facebook.
Facebook.
So let's talk to some 50-year-old grandmothers.
A 50-year-old grandmother. That's
She's pretty young, actually.
You know what? She's had a long life. She had children very young. She likes to play video games occasionally and send links to her grandson.
this doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, these are all wins on the age column.
I did not say it was a bad thing. I just was referring to the type of people you'd find
okay.
on the Faka book.
We're just so you. What? The what? What did you?
No,
The Faka book.
Let's not go back to that.
You got a fucking problem.
Ah, goodness. We have fun, though.
Insert edit here.
Not going to happen.
So, we're going to move on to Facebook, where apparently 50-year-olds are grandparents. Dave Odette says, is Alfred Bruce Wayne's real father? Whoa.
So I think this is actually part one of a two-part question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so there's a follow-up.
I'll answer part one.
We'll start with part one, though.
No,
What?
he's not. He's just straight up not.
I don't know. Bruce Wayne's pretty dapper. So is Alfred.
You hear that, Dave? You're dumb.
No. No, I mean that in the nicest possible way. I mean,
He's saying, no, Dave, you're not dumb.
Alfred.
There's no bad questions, but that one was terrible.
Alfred is a father figure, absolutely, but he's not Bruce Wayne's real father. Thomas Wayne is indisputably the father of Bruce Wayne.
What, just based on last names alone?
Yes.
Oh,
No,
okay.
like genetics, last name, stories. Yeah, that Bruce Wayne is the son of Thomas Wayne.
I want a DNA test.
I'll get right on that.
Perfect. And when you're a doctor, so we can get that super easy.
That's right. Yeah, I'm already working on it.
We're still waiting on that paperwork from your doctor school.
Don't worry about it.
Yes, I am still waiting on that.
While this sample's in the spinny device that I know what it's called, what's the
centrifuge?
follow-up?
Fidget spinner?
Yeah, centrifuge. That's right.
Yeah, the guy who doesn't know anything knows what it's called.
Well, one day you'll have to have me as a guest on your
Doctor show.
On your
Yeah,
doctor show.
It's called Doctor, the Doctor Show.
Another podcast where he knows nothing.
It's like most doctors. Dave Odette also has a follow-up question. And he says, did he have an affair with Martha? And in referring to he, it's Alfred.
Right.
With Martha and hire Joe Chill to kill Thomas, but something went horribly wrong.
This is like a super interesting little fan theory that I kind of liked the mood that echoing was saying. It's a really interesting fan theory. Sure, like Alfred, has an affair with Martha, and then he wants to get Thomas out of the way, but then Joe Chill kills both of them instead of just Thomas. Like, there's something interesting from a storytelling perspective in there. As far as I can tell, that is not the case. But I can give you an example of an Alfred who would have the Waynes killed. And it involves a little bit of like multiverse theory. So on Earth 3, the morality of the world is basically skewed evil. This is the world from which the crime syndicate hails, and they're evil versions of the Justice League. And so in the origin of Owlman, who is the Earth 3...
Who?
Owlman.
Who? Sorry, who?
I'm so late to the game. That was amazing. Yeah.
Hardy, who? 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 Who?
Just let me know when you're done. Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, so Owlman is the Earth 3 doppelganger of Batman.
Who?
And in his origin story, the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne is kind of like formulated and carried out a little bit by Alfred and Bruce. And they basically, they like kill the rest of the family. That's a version of that's a world that is designed to be like an evil, skewed, like broken mirror of what actually happened. But I just wanted to throw it out there because it is an example of something not exactly like what Dave is suggesting here, but there is like a version of Alfred out there who did something like that. That Alfred, just for the record, was viciously murdered later on. and like kind of rightfully so. But yeah, as far as I can tell, there isn't a main continuity version of Alfred that would do that. There's alternate Earths and like Elseworld stories and things like that where it might be true, but in the main sort of canon of Batman, it's not.
Oh, and a new question actually just popped up on Facebook from Colin Close. It says, did Joe Chill have an affair with Alfred, who is in love with Martha, and thus kills Martha, and Thomas was collateral?
This, so we're digging a little bit into the fan fiction you've been writing. Yeah. No, Joe Chill has not been having an affair with Alfred. There's no weird love triangle with Martha.
That's so hot.
Yeah, no, Joe Chill is, as the name implies, unhot. He's, as far as I know, that has never been a thing, even in Elseworlds or multiple.
Well,
like,
and
multiverse.
Alfred is obviously totally a babe.
Absolutely, I find that he's really the Betty of the series, with Joe Chill being the Veronica.
Joe Chill's the Veronica?
Joe Chill's like the moose.
Look here. Don't you besmirch his name by calling him Moose.
Who?
Yep, Owlman. We brought it back.
Oh, that's really weird. That question just disappeared from our Facebook page.
Yeah. What do you know? How appropriate that it did.
Moving on to Twitter, where the names are all weird and so are the questions. At Tanker25200, like how many tankers were there?
Apparently there were 252,002 before this tanker got there.
All right, Tanker 25 2003. How is it possible for Batman to be in every single title going? He's the leader of the JLA, has 3 of his own titles, plus makes cameos in all of the Batverse.
Yeah, so I mean this...
The Jungle Love Association?
Yeah, Batman is the leader of the Jungle Love Association.
Knew it.
I was always a member, but I didn't realize that he was in charge.
Yeah, he's the one that calls the meetings to order.
No, they're just a party that erupts occasionally.
Yeah. So I mentioned right off the top that it's kind of remarkable that we've gotten to basically like episode 3 without really talking about Batman too much.
That's
Batman
really unfortunate.
Yeah, we're clearly talking about Batman too much at this point.
I think we need more Archie and much less Batman.
Yeah. You would think that, though.
It's to be decided that I think most people would agree. But go on, please talk about your Batman.
I intend to. Thank you. So Batman, I mean, he's undeniably an extremely popular character. He's one of the most recognizable superheroes on the planet. And part of what comes with that is at the end of the day, like comic books and movies and these things are a business. And people love and recognize Batman. That is a book that sells. You can make multiple books of Batman. There's the self-titled one, Batman. He's also the lead in Detective Comics. And then there's always been other Batman series like Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, or he makes cameos in like Nightwing and Batwoman and like Red Hood and the Outlaws and things like that. Batman always shows up because he is central to the mythology of DC, but he's also bankable. I mean, I don't want to sound too like cynical about it, but that is kind of part of it. So like Tanker 25 2003 said, he is currently a member of the Justice League with Superman and Wonder Woman and Flash and Green Lantern, the main Justice League. But he's also the leader of the JLA, the Justice League of America, which includes Lobo, Killer Frost, the Atom, a few other kind of characters. Vixen, I think, is on that team. And yeah, I mean, he's never not going to show up in things. He's Batman. And he's actually kind of a central character to this big event that's coming up called DC Metal.
Great music fest.
Party time. Excellent. Yeah, so DC Metal is going to explore something called the Dark Multiverse, and basically what they've revealed so far implies that there's these alternate world evil Batmen who are about to invade.
You can tell because they'll have mustaches.
Yeah, that's right. Like the Mirror Universe in Star Trek.
There's nothing
That's right.
wrong with mustaches. We all have one.
But if they're
You don't know what I have. You can't see my face.
But if they're pencil thin, you're definitely evil.
John Waters. Oh, evil. Yeah, okay, that too.
You're also John Waters. Yeah. If you have a pencil thin mustache, you are John Waters.
Or modern day Bob Dylan.
But yeah, so I mean, even that's a big like event, and Batman's at the center of it. When they did Forever Evil and the crime syndicate invaded and they like incapacitated the Justice League, who's the Justice League member that managed to get away? Batman.
Jughead.
Batman.
Just to clarify, Batman.
You were
was
so
the one that got
close.
away.
You had the right number of syllables
I'm Batman.
and some of the right letters, not in the right order.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, you're Batman?
I'm Batman.
Who?
That was Christian Bale. That was the voice from earlier. Yeah, so I mean, Batman's always at the center of these things. Even in Flashpoint, when it was all about Barry and going back and like messing the timeline, Thomas Wayne Batman, the like murdery, ruthless one, was a huge character. Batman is super bankable. He was always going to show up in those things. That's why you see him everywhere.
Did Thomas have a pencil thin mustache?
No, he didn't. He had like just kind of like stubble, like he had forgotten to shave. Do you know what though? I want to go back a little bit. I'll just address like the first little bit of this question because how's it possible for Batman to be in all of these? So I've explained why he's in all of them, but how's it possible? In the real world, because someone can draw him. In the narrative, not every book takes place like concurrently. They're not all exactly at the same time. So when you're reading Detective Comics, that story you're reading might take place like a week before the story you're also reading in Batman, or like a month after what you're reading in All-Star Batman. Like there's, you're not necessarily seeing things occur in real time. And usually when they reference the order of events, and this is sometimes where these continuity problems come in, there'll be editor's notes in the comic book. So if they say like, oh, it's been tough ever since the crime syndicate invaded, then there'll be a little asterisk and you go to the bottom of the page and it'll say like asterisk from Forever Evil. And that's the editor's note. And it'll kind of direct you to what they're talking about. But yeah, so like, why is it possible for him, or how is it possible for him? It's because those things aren't all happening exactly at the same time. They almost tried to do that with the books when they started what was called the New 52, and they kind of rebooted everything, but it very quickly didn't work. It's so hard to coordinate creative teams and stories and keep things all moving at the exact same pace. It's almost impossible. So you kind of have to go in with a bit of an open mind when you're reading those things. And just
You mean like with characters like 4chan Man?
4chan Man?
Aren't we all Robin?
Yes. We are all Robin,
I
actually.
think I might have stumped him.
Are you referencing We Are Robin? That series? Okay, this is a total tangent. I think I've answered Tanker's question, but to address this, yeah, we are all Robin. There was a period of time where Batman, quote unquote, died. Jim Gordon became the new Gotham City sanctioned Batman in this big robot suit, and Damian Wayne, the current Robin, was away. He's like in the mountains. And so in the vacuum left by like the real Batman's passing, this group of kind of street kids effectively all take up the mantle of Robin. They become a team of Robins and begin like fighting crime, led by Duke Thomas, who's a relatively recent character, but he's had a lot going on in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. He's become really popular. Yeah, so We Are Robin was all about this sort of ad hoc team of basically like teenagers and kids who were inspired by Batman and Robin and became sort of unofficial Robins and fought crime.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought We Are Groot.
That's different. Different. Yeah, that's Marvel.
We are family?
We are family. Because
I thought I had my brothers and sisters with me.
Yeah, that's right.
You do. You do. Well, this has been a really fun episode. Please do keep sending the questions to our email address, which is
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
and our Facebook
Dr. DC Podcast.
and on Reddit at
Well, on Reddit, you'll see a post asking for questions. But on Twitter, at Dr. DC.
You just have to go to r/Archie Comics.
r/DC Comics.
It's basically the same thing.
/ ending this
Just one's better.
episode.
Goodbye, fools.
Aquaman, all the superheroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.